Welcome to American Christian or Christian American. I'm Sean Legacy and I'm your host. If this is your first time, welcome to the channel. If you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please do that and join the family. And also push the like button if you like this video. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the freedom of speech and a few other things. But the idea is that if what you're saying doesn't agree with the majority of people, can get you fired. But if you're saying something that agrees with the people, it gets you honor. We're going to look at a couple different videos. The first one deals a lot with what I'm talking about here. And so then we'll talk some more after that.
So those of you conservatives that's asking black people to have empathy for Charlie Kirk, I'm going to show you all the black people that Charlie Kirk has said and justified their passing, that lost their life and also had family. So let's start off with Trayvon Martin, a black boy that lost his life by George Zimmerman. And this is what Charlie Kirk said about Trayvon Martin.
George Zimmerman was hunted at night by Trayvon Martin at 2 a.m. and the stand your ground law allows you to stand your ground up against.
Charlie Kirk has justified Breonna Taylor, a black woman that lost her life by the police. And he didn't have empathy for her. Here's his video.
Unjust police killings. Breonna Taylor would still be alive if her boyfriend and her lover, Kenneth Walker, didn't try to kill a police officer.
This is what Charlie Kirk said about George Floyd.
And I'm not going to go on this endless soapbox defending Derek Chauvin. I think he's kind of not a great person. But I am also going to offer some context and some nuance about the death of George Floyd that no one dares to say out loud, which is that this guy was a scumbag.
Now, it's kind of strange that he's saying he's not defending Derek Chauvin. But yeah, he's been asking pardon for Derek Chauvin that unalived George Floyd. And Charlie Kirk has called George Washington a good person.
Hey, everybody, we all know that George Floyd was a criminal. Is that? So now George Floyd is getting statues while George Washington is being taken down. And one incredible person.
First of all, we have a criminal in the office. Of course, you don't care about that because it doesn't fit the racist narrative. But also, you said MLK doesn't deserve a holiday and he wasn't a good person.
I can say declaratively, this guy is not worthy of a national holiday. He is not worthy of godlike status. In fact, I think it's really harmful. In our piece, that Kirk describes King as, quote, a bad guy. It's true.
Let me get this straight. You called MLK a bad person. That was a civil rights icon that fought for equal rights for black people and for black people to be treated fairly, which is really hard to ask for the racists. But you call George Washington an incredible person, a slave owner? Are you kidding me? Reminder, 600 people lost their jobs for criticizing a pedo protector, Nazi, racist podcaster. The same man that didn't have empathy for all the black people that lost their lives and they had family. Where's the energy in that? Nobody tried to cancel Charlie Kirk, all the things he said. Y'all called it free speech. But as soon as someone criticized him, you dox people's jobs. You get 600 people fired. Unbelievable, man. This makes me so mad, bro. Honestly, bro.
So we're talking about Charlie Kirk in the beginning of this. We're going to talk about something else too. Is that, but Charlie Kirk was a deplorable person. Now again, I've said it again and again. No one should murder anybody. So his murder, I don't approve of. I think it was wrong. It was terrible. But to honor the man, there's no way I'll honor such a horrible man who was a racist. But he's not alone. There are so many people in this country who are out and out racist people and politicians, people running for office. Andy Barr is one of them. I mean, there's all kinds of them. I mean, he may not have said everything that Charlie Kirk did, but he has a lot of the same mindset. You can tell if you're aware of anything just by what he says in his commercials. There's people all over this country. But Charlie Kirk defamed Martin Luther King and said he wasn't worthy of honor. Well, all the stuff he's talking about came from the FBI trying to put false narratives out there at the time to discredit him, to take away from his movement. All the things, and then, we want to honor Charlie Kirk with a holiday, but he doesn't deserve a holiday. We don't need to remember him as a hero. He was a racist, a hateful, evil man who supported white supremacy in this country, which we don't need any more of. We've got plenty of it to go around. Charlie Kirk talked against all kinds of people in that video. What is to honor such a man? We don't care about all the people who have been murdered in slavery, all the people who have been murdered during Jim Crow, all the lynchings that have gone on. We don't talk about those kinds of things, really, unless you're an activist like myself and other people who care about it. But the society doesn't want to talk about that. But we'll praise Charlie Kirk, who talks against those things. He's talked about women. He's degraded women in our society. He's done everything to be hateful and evil. He praised George Washington. George Washington was a despicable man. His prisoners he treated horrible, and he was a slave owner. He may have been the father of our country. Well, it goes along with what our country was, and in many ways still is. We are indoctrinated as children to believe that the founding fathers were such great men, but these were slave owners. These are people who degraded human beings and made a profit of it. Yes, Jefferson talked about, well, it should be abolished, but he didn't get rid of his slaves. Why? He couldn't afford it, because he didn't want to work himself. He wanted other people to work for him, made him a wealthy man. So why he said he was against it, he wasn't against it, because if he was really against it, he would have given up his slaves. In fact, he wouldn't have sold them to get money out of them. He would have simply freed his slaves. But he wasn't interested in that. Neither were any of the founding fathers who owned slaves. Our country was based on slavery. It was based on stealing land from Native Americans. It was based on war, stealing land from Mexico. That was their land already, and we came and no, we're going to take that land. So we're going to make this great country of white supremacy. So honoring men like Charlie Kirk, listen to what the man said. Listen to the atrocities this man said. And in his rhetoric will cause somebody else who would actually take violence to take violence. He may not have committed any violence that we know of, but he would instigate it by his rhetoric. He helped to start a new generation of white supremacists in this country. He helped to support a wealthy regime that would degrade and dehumanize people. Let's look at another video, and let's talk about that video.
Listen, as horrible as this past year has been under Trump, there is a silver lining. Because in just 1 year's time, God has completely unmasked this man and exposed his depraved racism, his incredible cruelty, the depth of his Epstein ties, and the blatant lawlessness and corruption of his entire regime. And the question we have to ask ourselves as a nation is, where do we go from here? Who are we as a nation? Because nothing about Trump is new. God is just using him to show us what was already here, to force us to look at our own DNA as a nation, which is a nation that was founded on greed and white supremacy, slavery, stolen labor, stolen land, and that today is being propped up by an ever-growing prison and military industrial complex. Because listen, we all want to get Trump out of the way so we can get back to normal. But life in America isn't normal. And if we're going to survive as a nation, we have to change. And we have to begin to tear down these systems that exploit and destroy the most vulnerable members of our society.
So this is interesting what this man says about President Trump, that he needed to some degree to expose a great deal of what's going on in this country. It's an interesting philosophy. I don't really like the idea that we went that far, but he could be right to a point, because this stuff has been going on and on and on for years. Since the inception of this country, it's gone through different levels. So when people fought back during the 60s, so many laws were passed, but people have been resisting against them all the time, making incredible claims that are completely stupid and ignorant, saying that white people are being discriminated against. I've said it again and again. The only way you could say a white person's being discriminated against in this country is if they look at themselves as superior, and what we're asking them to do is come down and make everybody on a level playing field. And that seems like discrimination, because they believe they should be superior. They should be above everybody else in this world. That's the only way it could be. If you are actually want to be treated, if you believe in equality, then all of us in the same playing field. None of us have a job until we're picked for that job. None of us are taking a job away from anybody else if everybody comes in and does the same application process and is considered equally by the merit of their skills. But a lot of times, white people get jobs over other people because of white supremacy. Laws that have been put in place that only help to equal that out. But so this stuff has been getting worse. And as people accept these little lies along the way, especially because some people weren't born when things were going on heavier, and they don't like to really acknowledge history. That would be terrible. So they believe these lies, and then the lies are perpetuated and they grow and get bigger and bigger, and they start to wind back on different things that were achieved. But people have to stand up so we can pull them back. Now, with President Trump getting in here and doing all the things he's done, he's upset a lot of people. So perhaps this can be part of the resistance to pull back. But I guarantee you that there are some people who support certain things that he does, like getting people out of the country who don't look like me, getting people out of the country who will make this country less white. All those things they support. But when they get their Medicaid or other things hurt, that's when there's a problem. When their Medicaid is taken away, when their benefits are taken away, that's a problem. Okay, so that's where we have to be able to decide what we really want for this country. President Trump, everything he does is about his own ego, about his own power. Even the people supporting him, if they don't support him just the way he wants it to be, he will turn against them. He doesn't really care about anybody but himself, but he is definitely a racist. He is definitely a person of power and control. But when he's gone, the problem is still here. When he's gone, it's still going to be happening. So what do we do? How do we change that? We have to stand together. We have to be something different. We have to stop believing in people like Charlie Kirk and otherwise. Until the next time, on American Christian or Christian American.